and there are prices that people have to pay. And if this is one of them, then fine.
Effectively, you're ordered to sign it, and if you don't sign it, if you disobey the order, you're returned to unit. In other words, you're kicked out of the SAS. That's what it comes down to, isn't it?
Well, it's a small price to pay if you don't sign. I.e., I mean, if you want to really serve that regiment, then you should sign without any question.
We all thought at the time, surely this could not stand up in a court of law, a civil court of law.
Were you allowed to consult a lawyer?
There was simply no option for us at the time to consult a lawyer or seek any independent legal advice.
Did you sign the contract?
No.
You didn't?
I didn't, no.
But you should have signed it, shouldn't you? You were a serving member of the SAS. You had to sign the contract or be kicked out of the SAS. Why didn't you sign it?
I was leaving the army 5 months later, so...
Doesn't make any difference. You were a serving member, 1996, you should have signed the contract.
Who dares wins.
Did you win?
I won, yes. I didn't sign it.
What did you do with it when you got it?
I think I put it in the bin.
The contract did not go down well with the SAS's sister regiment, the Special Boat Service, the SBS. A few weeks later, its commanding officer wrote a letter to the Director Special Forces. This is a copy. He said that his men viewed the contract as morally offensive and insulting to the SBS. Mike, like Mal, signed the contract because he too was still serving, but he insists that he did so only under duress. Nevertheless, he was determined to write his own account of the patrol, to set the record straight.
I strove to keep anything that would have been remotely, or that I consider remotely confidential, out of the book.
The MOD seemed to agree. In a memo to Colonel David Lyons, the SAS Colonel Commandant in charge of disclosure policy, the MOD wrote that there was nothing particularly sensitive in his book and that it was unable to argue that damage to national security results from publication. Colonel Lyons then wrote to Tony Blair. He appears to have argued that, though national security was not at risk, the principle of the contract had to be defended. Tony Blair took the Colonel's advice and gave the go-ahead to fight Mike Coburn and Soldier 5 on the other side of the world, thus beginning a costly, lengthy and bitter legal battle. Even the SAS was astonished by this turn of events, as an internal SAS memo clearly shows. We could hardly be on weaker ground for this first challenge to the authority of the contract. It is truly remarkable that we have secured political support for taking this issue into the New Zealand courts. Meanwhile, Peter Radcliffe, the regimental sergeant major during the Gulf War, didn't sign the contract and got away with it.
Why didn't you sign the contract?
In the back of my mind, I had the thoughts of writing my own book to put the record straight, and I was sick of reading about all this sensationalism that's been taking place in these other books. And in my mind, it is wrong, and it needs to be put right.
Peter Ratcliffe submitted the manuscript of his book to the MOD, and the green light was given for publication after a few minor changes had been made. Surprisingly, the fact that he didn't sign the contract, although he was serving at the time, was never made an issue. There was no court case, no pressure, no problem. So, why did Peter Ratcliffe dare and win, and Mike Coburn not? Could there have been political reasons for stopping Mike's book? Given the failure to heed the call for help, which led to the death of Vince and 2 of his comrades, is the content simply too embarrassing? The war over, the troops returned to England and the SAS to their headquarters in Hereford. Mal, Mike and other members of the patrol were invited to meet their commanding officer from the Gulf in his office.
As we would have expected, the commanding officer was there, greeted us, and we went into his room, his study, sat down. He welcomed us back and seemed glad to see us, and he broke open a bottle of champagne. Again, we'd expect that. That was nice. for a chat and a welcome back. But things changed at that moment. Once we had the champagne in our hands and cheers, welcome back. I remember this moment very clearly, and there was a pause. He is obviously picking his moment to actually hit us with this information. And he said words to this effect. He said, and those of you who might be wondering, don't worry, we are not, or I am not, going to court-martial you for anything you might have done. Now, all of us were in there, and that simply rocked us back on our heels, and we thought, what on earth is this man talking about? He was not going to court-martial us, as though we'd done something horribly wrong.